What if we wanted to, let's say we had a significant interaction effect. Now we need to look at the test of simple main effects, right? That's what follows a significant interaction effect. Tests of simple main effects. So what if we wanted to first look at the simple main effect of learning environment within the testing environment? So you might remember from the previous lecture that whatever we put here in this place, so if we want to look at the effect of learning environment, that means we're going to compare the different means for learning environment. And whatever variable comes at the end of the sentence, that tells you what you're going to break it down by. So we're going to look at the effect of learning environment separately for each of the different levels of the testing environment. All right, so let's actually look at this so it makes more sense. All right, so first of all, we know we're going to be looking at the means for learning environment. So here's learning environment. What are the means? Well, we have classroom and we have testing center, so we're going to have two means, right? Classroom, testing center. Now we're going to make this comparison within testing environment. So we're going to look at the two means of learning environment separately for each testing environment. So we're going to go down here and we're going to compare the means for the learning environment, but we're going to do it just for classroom. We're breaking it down. We're going to look just within the classroom level of this factor. Okay, so we're going to compare these two means. Now, what test would you use? Well, you're comparing two means, and it's the same people making up each mean. So that would be what? A dependent t-test. All right. Remember from the last lecture, when you look at simple main effects, you kind of have to ignore the original two-way ANOVA. You did the two-way ANOVA to identify, which of the main effects and interaction are significant. But once you decide you need to do tests of simple main effects, kind of put that aside now and just look at the analysis that is that you're doing, the analysis that is the test of simple main effect. Just focus on that. Okay, so you kind of forget the two-way. So the simple main effect of learning environment compares these two means within only for the classroom. Two means, same people in each mean, that's a dependent t-test. All right, so that would be one test of simple main effect. But then now you have to look at these two means. This is also comparing the two means of learning environment, but now it's separate or within the testing center condition. So again, two means, same people in each group. That would be a dependent t-test. Okay, now if one or both of those t-tests are significant, do you need to do a post hoc test? The answer is no. Never, ever do a post hoc test if you're doing a t-test, because all t-tests compare two things. If you get a significant t-test result, you know where the difference is. It's got to be between those two means. There are no other means where you could find differences. Again, if this t-test is significant, it's saying there's a significant difference between your means. Which means? Well, you've only got two, so it's got to be here. Same thing, when we do a dependent t-test down here, if it's significant, it means there's a significant difference between your means. Which means, well, there's only two, so it's got to be here. You do not need another test to tell you which means are different from which. The t-test has already told you that information. Had we had a third level, either of learning environment or testing environment, had there been a third level, well, then it would no longer be a t-test, right? If we were comparing this mean to this mean and another mean over here for that third level, then it would be a one-way repeated ANOVA, because now there's 3 levels, right? 2 levels is a t-test. 3 or more levels is ANOVA. So if we had 3 levels here and a third mean, that would be a one-way repeated ANOVA. And if that was significant, then yes, you would now need some sort of post hoc test to see which mean is different from which. And that post hoc test, remember, is not called Tukey, Chaffee, LSDT, because it's a within subjects factor. The post hoc test that we're going to use is called a one-way. A one-way. That post hoc test is called tests of pairwise comparisons. Okay, so it's a post hoc test. It's just given a different name. Tests of pairwise comparisons. Okay, we could go in the other direction. In other words, we could switch our variables around. So instead of looking at the simple main effect of learning environment within test environment, what if we did this? What if we looked at the simple main effect of test environment separately for or within learning environment? All right. So now here's the same setup. Okay. Now we're saying we want to compare the means for test environment. So we look here. Here's test environment. Which means are going to be compared? This one and this one. But remember, we're comparing the means of test environment within each of the different levels of learning environment. So that means we're going to compare classroom. Sorry about that, folks. We're going to compare classroom testing, right? We're going to compare this mean to testing center because we're looking at this factor. So we're going to compare these two means. This one to this one. And we're going to do it within the classroom learning environment. This one to this one. Okay, so that's comparing the means for testing environment, but it's separate for the classroom learning environment. So 2 means, same people in each, right? What's that? A dependent t-test. Same thing. Over here, this would look at the simple main effect of testing environment. So we're going to compare these 2 means within, and now we're just looking within the testing center. So we're going to compare these 2 means, right? 1, 2. Same people in each. That's a dependent t-test. If either of those tests, the dependent t-test to compare these 2 means or the dependent t-test to compare these 2 means, if either of those is significant, do we need a post hoc test? No. Post hoc tests are never done following a significant t-test.